Okay, this is Orlando Wilson, and what I want to talk about in this video is terminology. How we describe specific activities and specific things. And this is a non-issue, but it is an issue. And the reason I'm doing this video, I've got some people sending me emails, messages about the terminology I use in my videos, that the terms are wrong, etc. Well, the terms might be wrong for you, they're not wrong for me. It's the terms I use, it's the terms my school uses, it's the terms my company uses, it's the terms the people I deal with use. The fact they're not the same terms as you use, who cares? It's your world, not my world. My world is my world, your world is your world. Now, to put this into context, if you've been in the military, different branches of the military will use different terminology to describe the same thing, the same activity. The Navy can just use certain terms to describe things that the Army doesn't. The Marines can use terminology the Air Force doesn't. Or the same, you've got how many different terms, how many different wordings that can describe the same thing that somebody from another unit, somebody from another branch of the military won't understand unless they're up to speed on that unit's terminology. Another example, even within countries. I'm originally from UK, it's a small country. I'm from the South, I'm from Cornwall. The terminology and what the words we use to describe specific things are a lot different than they use in the north of England. I know that for a fact. When I joined the military, I joined a unit that was more Northern Midlands, and some of the things they were talking about, until they told me some of the words that were used to describe common objects, I was like, what the? Until it was described to me. Why? Different areas, different terminology, different slang. Now, from a training perspective, from an operational perspective, terminology is something that needs to be worked out from the beginning, in the planning phases. If you come from a different country, a different branch of the military, a different school, your terminology can be different than my terminology. And this is where you have to make sure that everybody that's on the team understands the terminology, understand what words are going to be used to describe specific things. Now, I've worked internationally now for over 30 years. And what comes to mind is a lot of the gun ranges I've worked on when running gun ranges, when running firearms courses. In some countries, the terminology to me is like, okay, this is different to my terminology. This is different than the words I would use to run the range. So am I going to go in there and use my terminology, or am I going to adapt things over to the locals? Well, generally I adapt things over to the locals. Why? I can go in with how can I put it? The arrogant and colonial attitude of what I say is right, and if you're not following, if you're not using my terminology, you're wrong, so do as you're told, which will just, especially on gun ranges where people can get hurt, you've got safety issues. If people don't understand what you're talking about, there can be a problem. I'd sooner go in with the attitude of, okay, tell me what you've been using, tell me what everybody understands, and we'll work with the local dialect, local language, local terminology. That way we ensure everything runs smoothly. So this is where terminology varies greatly from place to place, etc. And if you're working internationally, it helps if you adapt to the people you're working with. If people are working for you, then okay, you can say, okay, this is what we want, this is what we're going to say, etc. Now, the person that sent me, thank you very much for sending me what must have taken you an hour to write recently about the counter-surveillance videos I put out there. Why it's not counter-surveillance, it's surveillance detection, etc. You know what? Whatever book you've read, okay, congratulations, you can read a book. Whatever course you've attended, okay, congratulations. On that course, in that book, they call it surveillance detection. In my world for the past over 30 years, internationally. Counter-surveillance is counter-surveillance. And that's the terminology I use. I've used that terminology internationally. Everybody understands it. What you decide to use on your courses, if you do courses, what you decide to use in your workplace, if you actually do work, is up to you. But all I'll say about terminology is, as long as everybody understands, and that's the main thing, who cares? We could use, if we're working in various areas, and this happens, we can use code words or cover words to cover up the actual terminology we're trying to say, which is very, very common, which is another topic I might do a video about. Somebody sent me something recently. There was a big thing, I heard about it. I think somebody was complaining about people using the term operative. Who cares if somebody says they're an operative? There's, as somebody said to me, there's crane operators, there's machinery operators, etc. All those guys are operators. So if you want to say I'm a crane operator, who cares? But apparently somebody got upset online because people are using the word operator, and he's the only operator, and his people are the only operators, and you have to be special forces to be operators, etc. What complete BS. I heard of, I don't know if this is true, there was some convention somewhere, Bodyguard, Executive Protection Convention, and one of the topics, I think a whole morning speech or a few hours speech or discussion, was about why people should be called executive protection specialists over bodyguards. Bodyguards is a bad word. Okay, if you got time to waste and go to these things and talk about this BS, best of luck to you. I think people just wanted a little bit of arrogance, a little bit of a snobbery factor there to say, okay, we got executive in our title rather than being called a bodyguard. So we're a little bit special. We get to put our suits on for a weekend and say we're executive protection specialists. If such things keep you amused, best of luck to you. In reality, it means nothing. In reality, let me tell you something, if you're serious about the close protection business, most clients, if they're looking for bodyguards, will type in bodyguard into their Google search. So it helps you to have bodyguard in your keywords. And if having bodyguard in the keywords and on your website brings in business, thank you very much. Most clients are not going to even know what an executive protection specialist is. So that's a little bit of a marketing tip if you're an executive protection specialist. So this is just my thoughts on terminology. Wherever you go, understand the local terminology within your company, unit, team. Ensure everybody understands what terminology you're using, what terminology is going to be used, and what terminology the locals are going to be using, etc. It's no big deal. It's words. Words are words. What's important is the actions and making sure if you're providing training, the training is successful, that people learn. And also if you're providing services, that clients are safe, you're safe, your team's safe, and everybody goes home and gets paid. So I have a selection of books online specifically to do with close protection, 3 to do with close protection specifically. There's also other books up there to do with various aspects of the security business that interlink with close protection. I'm also throwing out a lot more of these videos to explain various parts of the close protection world, because it takes me too long to write these days and I don't have the time. If you're connecting with me on social media, you got any relevant questions, please feel free to send me any relevant questions. If you want to send me a dissertation on terminology or a dissertation about what you think I'm doing wrong, I'm open to constructive criticism, very open, because that's the best way to learn, but I'm not into stupidity. So please don't waste my time or your time. Thank you very much. Goodbye. Stay out of trouble.